at this moment in time. When I return after this break, we'll get straight into business. Stay with us.
Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905. Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history. Dramatist, playwright, and icon of Yoruba thematic arts, Duro Ladipo was born December 18, 1931 in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria. His clergyman father christened him Timothy. His other names, Duro Dola, Duro Shomo, Duro Rike, reflected his persona and the circumstances that surrounded his birth. The legendary stage actor had in several public fora identified himself as one of the greatest abikus born to die in this world. Family records reveal how he was born and died 13 times. The intertwining names he bore thus lent credence to his spiritism. Duro Ladipo was one of the best-known and world-acclaimed Yoruba dramatists to emerge from post-colonial Africa. His notable works, Obakoso, Obawaja, and Moremi, took him beyond Africa to several parts of the world. By the time Duro Ladipo died on 11 March 1978, the Nigeria's first cultural ambassador had acquired a towering image as an artist whose works adorned the frontage of Trenchard Hall, University of Ibadan. Western Spring Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Fumilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransom Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela Ande Ololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born on 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Fumilayo Ransom Kuti as a watershed character in history.
All right, here we go. Let's do this. Good morning once again. Let me just do that. It's needed. And let me welcome you to Morning Spring. If you're joining us for the very first time, we sincerely appreciate you all being there with us. Let's get down to the business of the morning. And just as I stated earlier, you can view us and you can leave us with your comments, thoughts, or suggestions on all our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. All right, seated with me right here at this moment in time as we go through the dailies for making the rounds this beautiful Monday morning, third day in the month of July 2023. I'd like to welcome former Dean Student Affairs, Federal Polytechnic Ede, Dr. OMOTOSHO Jr. Always a pleasure, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. We'll be here together till probably when we close down transmissions today. All right, let's look at some of the stories making the rounds from the dailies, from the pages of Punch newspaper. I'll kick things off from the Punch newspaper this morning. Governors battle cash crunch. Delta, Imo, Cross River, Oyo lead as states borrow 130 billion naira in 3 months. And 17 shortfall hits states internally generated revenue. Debt rises to 5.5 trillion naira. Where has the money gone to? Where is the money? If governors of some of the states mentioned here, Delta, Imo, Cross River, Oyo, lead as state borrow 130 billion naira in 3 months.
Well, it's quite unfortunate that even before the election, we observed that the states were already getting broke. And so it's nothing new now. Productivity has not increased in any form. The states have lived as if they have all the money in Abuja. And so we operate a rent economy. And once the federation account is not sending huge amount of money every month, what you have is that the states become broke. They are not resourceful. And it is not their fault. It is the fault of the Constitution. The Constitution, needs serious restructuring. The exclusive legislative list has given all the powers to the center to the extent that states have resources in their state that they cannot tap into. And so all the governors are just lazy. I've been saying it here, they are not resourceful. If I'm a governor, probably I will be like that too. Because where you could send your commissioner for finance every month, every 30 days, and it comes home with 6, 5, 7, 8 billion, and then you can spend it the way you like, and you are expecting another one. And so why should you work when the federal government is doing all the work, even though haphazardly? Now, the point now is that the states are chewing more than they can swallow, and so they need to borrow. And then we have said that the borrowing spree continues, and it's quite unfortunate. And I think that is the first thing this government should tackle, by actually finding out means of restructuring the economy and means of making the states more resourceful to the extent that they can tap into resources around them. Some of these states are very rich in mineral resources, which can increase their revenue. And since they cannot touch it, what else can they do than to continue to borrow? And the federal government, in every minute the state government borrow money, the federal government is their guarantor. And so in that case, the federal government actually wants them to borrow. And I think governors should start trying to be resourceful, not by increasing prices, increasing hardship on the citizens, but by tapping into the resources around them, by thinking deeply. Governance is not a teacup, party now. It is serious business.
Absolutely.
All government, including state and local government, must do business to increase revenue, to satisfy their people. And if they don't do that, they will continue to borrow, and and their people will continue to live in abject poverty. Poverty is increasing now, seriously. Absolutely. In fact, almost at a geometric progression.
Oh my goodness. Looking at that same story here, 17 shortfall hits states internally generated revenue. Now, debt rises to about 5.5 trillion naira. Where do we go from here? You have stated the fact that each state government, there are resources, beg your pardon, in each state. What makes it difficult that all these resources are not being tapped into? Looking at Lagos, for example.
Yes.
Lagos is one state where, if we look at the set of people the traffic congestion. You look at it that how come this state is getting so much resources and they're able to create so many things. Look at the Blue Rail Line they've just created in Lagos. We've seen the BRT. What makes it so different from other states, like probably our dear state here in Osun State?
Lagos is the economic hub of Nigeria. Remember, Lagos was once a federal capital of the country.
Yes.
And because of that, all businesses go to Lagos. If you produce banana, you want to go and sell it in Lagos. And you are going to sell more. If you are producing garri, you want to sell it in Lagos. People, the population is huge. Don't mind what the census is saying. Lagos is about 20-25 million people. You know, don't mind the population saying there are 7 million. If it's that Lagos we live, where it's cool, I know it's thicker and it's more. It's about between 20 and 25 million people. But because we deceive ourselves a lot, we will not know that. So all commercial, all productive activities target Lagos. And because of that, we've had governors in Lagos who target that commercial, you know, benefit. And then it is to their advantage, particularly when Tinubu was the governor of Lagos State. He increased the IGR, you know, geometrically.
Absolutely.
And then it's a matter of thinking and using your number 6, your common sense. And you know what you just mentioned now, the commercial activities, the transportation system, all those can generate money for the people. And that is why we always say that when your population is thick, it's an advantage. You must use the population to an advantage. And that is what Tinubu did when he was in Lagos. He taxed those who are supposed to be taxed, and they were not complaining as long as the money was not so much. Up till now, tax in Lagos has increased, and that's what actually increased the revenue generation of Lagos to the level it is now, that a governor can say, yes, Lagos is rich, you know, after Lagos and possibly Kano and Port Harcourt. The other states are not really viable. And then Nigeria even wants to create more states, which is quite unfortunate. You can't maintain the present states, and then you cannot imagine if Lagos has access to more resources in terms of mineral resources. There is crude oil in Lagos, there are mineral resources in their local government here and there, and then there are other states too that have mineral resources. I've been saying here that we have the highest concentration of bitumen in the world in Ondo State. Ondo State is just looking at it. Yet we have no bitumen to construct our roads nationwide. Yet bitumen is wasting in Ondo because only the federal government can tap into it. And the federal government is not ready. They are busy with crude oil because to them, crude oil is sufficient. And then, but to Ondo State, crude oil is not sufficient. You want to tap into that bitumen, federal government will say, no, it's not in your purview. And those are the problems. So you ask, what is the problem? The problem is that the explosive legislative list is highly concentrated and should be decentralized. And then this government must restructure. Restructuring can come in forms of reducing the items, the 68 items in the exclusive legislative list, and devolve them to the states and local government. One of them is the one they have just signed now, you know, tapping into electricity, that state can generate, distribute, and transmit. That is good. All other you know, list of items in that list, like tax on cows and all the rest that is federal government, to go to state. That if you want to, if people are doing a party in a particular place, before you talk to them, you must talk to federal government for what? All those kind of things should be decentralized, and the exclusive legislative list should be devolved to the states and local government, so that the states will have power to tap resources in their area. Most of the mineral resources in the states, and there is no state that doesn't have mineral resources abundantly.
Absolutely.
They can't touch it. And it's because they can't touch it now you have illegal mining in Osun State. You have illegal mining in Zamfara and so many other states. Why do we have illegal mining? Because these things are in abundance there. And so, since federal government says you can't touch it, illegal people are coming to tap into it. And they are stealing it every day in collaboration with government. If it has been devolved, power has been devolved, you know, economic resources have been devolved to the states will have had the legal capacity to tap those resources for the benefit of their people. And that will be the best. So what can solve the problem is the reduction in the... So if the federal government cannot actually restructure the way they see restructuring as to utopian, what they can do is look at the explosive legislative list and give power to the state to do, to actually operate some of them by tapping into the resources that are wasting in their states.
So basically, there are, just as you, thank you for that last statement, there are resources in each state that can be tapped for the benefit of the state. Well, let's move on quickly. I like this story because when this story came out in the course of the weekend, I felt, wow, it's this bad in the country when it comes to education. UTME top performer manipulated score faces prosecution. That's credited to JAMB.
I have told you severally here that any environment where corruption is pervasive, anything can happen. Now, it's already affecting the youth.
Honestly.
You can see a child, a secondary school student claiming false results, getting scholarship on the basis of that, and it has been discovered now. Now, that was not done alone by the person, but I've collaborated with some adults, and that is corruption. Corruption is endemically pervasive in this country, and it is quite unfortunate. And like Buhari said, and Buhari himself that said what I want to say now, did not add the talk. He just said it for saying sake. If corruption does not kill Nigeria, if we don't kill corruption will kill us. Corruption is already killing us because in every sphere of life, there is one element of sharp practices or the other, which is affecting our productivity, which is affecting our output, which is affecting our goodwill, which is affecting our relationship with other countries. It's even affecting foreign and direct investment because where corruption is pervasive, what can you do? It's affecting justice. It's affecting the legal system. It's affecting the educational system. It's affecting health. You see people dying because of corruption. Corruption is not stealing money alone. It is, sharp practices in terms of even facilities, in terms of actually when you are giving money to do something, instead of buying the genuine one, you are buying the fake one. And then over invoicing here and there, leading to the high cost of living and high expenditure in the states. That is leading them to borrow now. Borrow to do what? And you will realize that all these monies they say we have borrowed. Where are the things we have done with them? You can't see them. What they have done with those borrowed money is not commensurate with what the monies are. And so it's unfortunate. Corruption is here. That is corruption actually working on its faults. And then as it's affecting our children, it's making it more unfortunate. And that is why government must fight corruption. I said in the last program when I was here, I've not heard Tinubu talking about two things. One, he has not talked extensively about corruption, and he needs to do that because no matter how his government is determined to perform, if he doesn't fight corruption, it will not show. Two, he has to reduce the cost of governance. He's not talking about that. He has to talk about that. To talk about that means that you are ready to tackle it, and you are telling us how you are going to tackle it, and you must live by example. Now, corruption has snowballed into primary school, secondary school. It's quite unfortunate. And then, it's sad. It's a sad commentary because you in fact, even the JAMB, I supervised JAMB one time, and that was the last time they allowed me. In one school along Kebale, it was unfortunate. I refused. I disagree with all the principals, all the officials. I was the supervisor in charge of that place. I refuse all entrances to do what they want to do. And since then, they have never called me again. Because what they were trying to do, principals were there aiding students. Teachers were there aiding students who wanted to aid students. I refused. Parents were coming to assist their children to write exams. I refused. And they say, where do they bring this character? And then at the end of the day, I was once in many. And so I left. But I satisfied my conscience. And since then, I've never even told them I want to participate in the activities again. Corruption to that extent. A child that scored 362 marks in JAMB, get to the tertiary institution in a particular department, he can't defend it. And then what happened? What actually happened? Something sharp practices must have taken place, and the result of what we are seeing now, that is not affect that will affect our goodwill. That will affect, foreign people are reading it, and then when you want to go to them, they ask you questions. You finish secondary school, how? You really finish. They want to subject you to further, examination to really know whether you are good or not. Whereas others are not doing that.
Dr. OMOTOSHO, thank God you are in the educational sector line here. What does this mean for the future of education in Nigeria if at this age manipulation has started, credited to some of the exams that
it's manifesting already. We discriminate against everything. You remember when NECO came, federal government, some people say it's not standard enough. They say it's better, it's not as good as WIFE, until federal government has to make a law, and then now they accept it's equal. Fine. Now, it's already manifesting. Manifestation in the sense that you see a situation where, you know, student, Nigeria, in fact, look at the JAMB itself. Look at the JAMB. How many foreign students do you see coming here to write exam? You don't have them again. When I was writing my A-levels, and then, you know, even though I read at home, I did A-level. In that A-level, the school where I was doing the A-level, the person coaching us is an Indian. There are South Koreans who can speak English, teaching us economics, teaching us mathematics, teaching us all sorts of things.
Especially we had Ghanaians as the mathematics teachers.
Do you see them again?
No.
Because the educational system has degenerated and they have stayed in their countries. And again, do you see any foreign lecturer or teacher coming to teach in Nigeria again? You know, rather what you have is Nigerian running from here to other countries to go and teach or to go and lecture. You know, in my school now, there is no single foreign lecturer. And then in so many schools, it's like that. And so they can't come here because the standard is falling. And it's falling because of this pervasive corruption, which we refuse to fight. Now, JAMB will be struggling with the problem comes from the educational system itself, the discrimination between the polytechnics and the universities. Now, so many Nigerians want to acquire the university education because we are more interested in certificates. Whereas the basis of our technological development is technical education, technical and vocational education, which the polytechnics and the technical institutions personify. And then you are relegating that to the background. You put a JAMB mark now. Before, the difference was just 20. The difference is about 100 now. I mean about 80 now. Here you say university JAMB cutoff 180, polytechnic maybe 140. You know, things like that are not good. Where you have talents, develop them. Most of these talents you are discriminating against. What do? They struggle to go to other clients and they are accepted and they excel. In Nigeria, because they can't excel, sharp practices is not the order of the day. And it is sharp practices that leads you see, an HND1 student, somebody who is almost in part 3 or 4 in the polytechnic, immediately he gets JAMB admission to part 1, he's running away. Whether by crook or hook means, he has gone to the university. Because that is what you are celebrating. When other countries are celebrating their technical education, we are celebrating theoretical education here. And it's quite unfortunate. You see a situation where about 600 universities converted to technical institutions in China. When I went to US last, the Central State University converted from Central State University to Central State Polytechnic. And they changed their policy system that they want to be more involved in skill acquisition for their use for the development of the state. And here we are struggling instead of actually developing the abundant resources that are in the polytechnics and the universities in terms of technical and collaboration. We are not doing that. Rather, we are discriminating. It is this kind of discriminations in all levels, since you emphasize certificates more, that is leading to more sharp practices which the government cannot control.
We just hope things will be restructured, and it's really sad to have the younger ones at this age manipulating.
Everybody is desperate to be in the university.
Oh my goodness.
Whereas people should be more desperate to be in the technical institution. You know, if you look at China, you look at Korea, you look at Singapore, you look at Malaysia, you look at US, you know, the technical people are even more paid than those other ones who have degrees here and there. They are more paid. And so more of their youth move to the technical areas, and it is better for them. Instead of that here, his certificates were emphasizing. There was a guy in my school who is a genius in computer. You know, he has been lecturing there. I don't want to mention his name. He's a genius. When Lagos State was having problem with their salary structure for like 5-6 years, they invited him. He solved the problem. Of course, they paid him as a consultant. But to solve that problem, it's in the polytechnic system. Now, he's a genius in that area, we knew. But the system forced him to go and do a PhD. After doing a PhD, I asked him, what have you guessed? Nothing. That is just theoretical. He just wasted his time. But then he has got the PhD. The PhD is with him now. Because he teaches in the polytechnic, they will not see him as good as those in the universities, even when those in the universities are not as good as him practically. I can tell you here, boldly that any problem in computer, that guy in my school will solve the problem. Our school was the first to do digital election when I was DSA. It was seamless. When students were complaining it's not going to work, lecturers were complaining, even the rector called me to sign an undertaking. I signed because I believe in the guy. When we conducted the election digitally and it was seamless, students almost carried me and they started shouting, they were celebrating. And that is what we are saying INEC should do. All these glitches they are saying they have in the electoral process. With people like that guy in my school, you will not see, they will rectify it in a jiffy. And we move on. And you have many of them like that in the polytechnic and technical schools. Some are in the universities too, but they are not encouraged. But again, the greater problem is the discrimination from primary to secondary to university to tertiary education, that we don't even know what we are doing than to emphasize certificates, which does not mean anything. If you go for an interview in US, they say you have a degree, you have a PhD, you have an MSc, no problem. They will test your skill.
The technical is what they want to see.
Once they test your skill and you are good, it is that time they will look at your certificate. Nobody bothers about your certificate. How do you say you are a teacher or a lecturer in technical education or in public administration or in engineering, and you cannot actually answer simple questions? They will know. Once you answer those questions and they are satisfied, then they say which certificate you have. And then when they look at it, they will now see the areas where they can train you more to contribute to the economy. That is the problem. That is why corruption is widening every now and then in Nigeria. It is only in Nigeria I see that professors in the universities, we see the polytechnic, their polytechnic counterparts as enemies, whereas they are supposed to be collaborating together, because an engineer that is working on design needs a technician that will actually implement the design. You need him. You need him.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. OMOTOSHO. Let's move on. Let's look at other stories we have from the different dailies this morning. Can mourns as kidnappers kill RCCG pastor. 7 churchgoers rescued. Very sad story there. Still staying with the Punch newspaper. And on the top strip of the Punch newspaper, opposition attacks federal government as presidency lambasts EU poll observers. That's our major topic. We'll be looking into that. Staying with the Punch, and just beside that story, NLC to meet Tinubu on 65-year retirement age. What do you think? This is one thing that actually cost quite a whole lot in France today. NLC 65 years.
You know why I'm laughing?
No, please.
You know, you know what France wants to do? We are struggling that our retirement age here should increase. Why?
They are saying they should
come down.
Yes.
Why? Because of the fear of the unknown. You retire, you are not paid your gratuity, you are not even paid your regular monthly allowance, which they call pension. Yes. So you feel, well, the more I work with them, the better for me. And so you see an old man who is 70 claiming 62.
Oh my goodness.
I've seen them in so many places. I don't want to mention places. We even have to ask a man. I have to advise a man that, please come and use my office downstairs. It's because since you can't climb up again. Because it is glaring. You can't cheat nature. Absolutely. And so that is the fear. Is because of the fear of the unknown. It is not productivity. It is not. It is not productivity at all. Now, France is saying, please retire on time and go home. And I mean, France are the people who said they want to increase retirement age. And then the people are saying, no, they want to retire on time. Why are they saying that? Because they know that once you retire, you have all the benefits. So why are you working? And then they want the youth to work. One man said, at 62, what else am I doing, man? I want to retire. And government said, no, don't retire. Because they need people to work. But they are not getting people to work. I mean, the longevity age is increasing. You know, the average age in all those developed clients now has increased because of good health, because of good environment, because of, cost of living that is, good for them. But here, we are struggling that it should be increased. In the university, why we increase age to 70? A professor retires at 70. A chief lecturer, which is almost equivalent to a professor in the polytechnic, retires at 65. Why are we doing that? It's because the university system observe at a particular time that when you retire these people at 60, they go to private institutions. For instance, you can have one specialist in datamology. And that's one specialist is the only one we have in Nigeria. You retire him at 60. He has gone to Afe Babalola University. Now, the University of Ibadan or University of Ife or OAU or Ambrose Ali University somewhere who trained that particular specialist will not be begging Afe Babalola to release him, to assist them. Meanwhile, they trained him. That was what led to the idea of thinking, let us increase their retirement age to 70. So that by 70, even when they want to go, they will have trained some people who will take over from there. That was what led to that. Now, other units of the economy didn't know that. They just want to increase their retirement age because of the fear of the unknown. Man, they want to continue to work till death, so that maybe government pay those on normal salary regularly more than those on pension. Of course, you see pension, lambasting, dying on queue, health problem. They can't buy their medicine, even paracetamol and all this kind of thing. Nobody wonders why they are struggling. It is not because of productivity. Productivity should determine that, and that tells you that government is not doing its bidding. Government should maintain its workforce properly, and then even when you retire, you must be happy in retirement. And then some of them can still contribute if you need them, particularly in the military. Look at what is happening in the military now. You train a general to that level, then because you pick a junior general to be chief of something staff, and then all those people above him must retire and go home and do nothing. Meanwhile, you spend so much money on them. That should not be. Promotion, an appointment, political appointment, should be based on seniority. That, okay, Mr. A is retiring. Who is the next to him? Who has been well trained? Use that person even for 6 months. And that's what the judiciary is doing. And that is good. That's what they should replicate in the military. And so, for Nigerians and LSC, making it a point that they want retirement age to increase, honestly, it's not based on productivity. It is based on fear of the unknown.
Let me look at the last story making the rounds this morning from the pages of the Punch newspaper. NNPCL, marketers, fuel vessels arrive next week. That's credited to Ipman. And if they arrive, will the prices of fuel be different from
we have been advising the president. We've been talking to the president. The president lent credence to something that was amazing. He said the removal of subsidy was not in his inauguration speech.
Yes.
He did it unilaterally. And I've told you severally here that he put the cart before the horse. Now, situations are getting worse because, we are still supposed to have subsidy for June. June is gone now. Now, how much have they saved in June?
About 400 billion.
They have not told us what they will use it to do. Again, too, the Dangote refinery, they told us we start working by July 1. I've told you here, we not work until next year, if possible. The Dangote is not ready, even though it has been commissioned. You commission it, you said the man has paid 70% of the money has borrowed. Set it rolling. Let's see the PMS. Let's see the petrochemical materials or chemical, that be dishing out. We can't see it. And because we can't see it, what does that tell you? It tells you we need to keep on importing. And when we import and then we compare the naira parity and then the exchange rate, and then the price will go up. And that's why people are speculating PML may go to 700 and the rest of it. So where is the competition here? We are left with nothing. Dangote is not rolling out anything. Federal government says he has withdrawn subsidy. And then who will import? Is it NNPC, PLC now that we import again? It means that we are back to square one. And back to square one means, again, the president has matched the exchange rate. And that means the forces of demand and supply should determine the currency rate. Fine. But do we have the productivity to cushion that? Do we have abundant reserve to cushion that? And if we don't have, the naira falls flat. And when the naira falls flat, the exchange rate increases and the price of petrol will increase because it is how you buy that will determine how you sell. And so that is the problem. That's why I said that the president didn't think out this plan. He just went by the market noise that everybody wants subsidy removed and you just remove it. No, it demands a lot of painstaking planning and agreement with your team so that this is your team. You can't work alone. Once you agree with your team will not go out to implement properly. To me, president will have waited at least in August, you know, and then have a plan, a long plan that we actually cushion the effect and then, you know, stabilize the market before making that pronouncement. That pronouncement was hasty, and that is what government cannot solve now. And I've told you here several times that Buhari removed subsidy in 2016 when he observed that the landing cost and everything would be 212 naira per litre. He couldn't sell at that point because it has already increased from 87 naira to 145 naira. So, because he wants to win election, he quietly, you know, introduced subsidy again that he has told us he has removed. And they started selling at 165, 175, 185 to win election. Before he left, he not removed the subsidy. Immediately he removed the subsidy at the first instance in 2015. The economy went to recession, and that recession was glaring. There was hyperinflation, there was galloping inflation. Are we not going to that now? If the president is not careful now, we are going to run into hyperinflation and then possibly galloping inflation. And when we have that, and then, you know, the economy may run to recession. If the economy runs to recession, where will government get money to be subsidizing what you told us you have cancelled hastily? You know, if we have waited, they have been doing subsidies since around 1970, around 1980 something, or 80, either 87 or 88. They've been doing subsidy, we didn't die. Now, good. You can still do it for 2 months so that your planning will germinate and yield output before you cancel it eventually. Those of us who are saying put the car before the horse, it's not because we don't like it. I'm a strong advocate of subsidy removal, and it's not because it is not good for us, because that's the only thing government is even doing for the citizens. Why we are saying you should remove it is because it is now benefiting the rich alone, not the masses that were targeted. That's why we say remove it. And when we say remove it, a good leader will sit down, plan properly before you tamper with something that will have a multiplier effect on everybody, on prices, on health, on education, on transportation, on everything. There's nothing that is not affected. Just look at the town. See, it's so difficult. Absolutely. I'm here. You say I can be here. I can be here for the whole day. I'm not going to school. I have to go to school once a week because moving from Osogbo to Ede is 5,000 naira in my car. I buy just 10 liters. Will take me to and fro. Tomorrow, if I'm going, I have to buy another 10 liters. Except something that is so special. That's when I have to go to school every day. I'm saying it on radio now and television because it is that critical. Can my salary cushion 5,000 naira per day on transportation? It cannot. So all I could do is to merge my agenda in the school and go once or at most twice, and then, you know, deliver my lectures and stay input in my house. You know, it is that bad. And so it was because the plan was not thought out properly, and they are not finding it easy now to solve it.
Let's move on quickly. The Guardian newspaper is next this morning, and we've been talking about petrol, and we've been talking about how, I don't know if Doctor still uses a generator in his house, but the aspect of solar is something here. That's the big bold caption right here on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Pump price hike. Households consider solar alternatives amid high onboarding cost.
In fact, if you look at houses now, an organization, you will see panels on the
roofs.
I've been using solar in my house for about 2 years or 2.5 years, and I'm enjoying it. My generator that was bought for me by my son, or bought for us in the house by our son, is just wasted. We don't use it. The light, the sun, charge the panel.
Yes.
And also you have 100% all the time. You can carry my television. You can have another panel that can carry AC. I even have one that can carry the fan. So I don't need NEPA. When NEPA was going, I said, come here, my friend. I don't use your light. Even outside, I have 3 poles that are, you know, chargeable solar panels. You don't need anything. It gets on, you know, when it is dark. And when it went off, when it is bright. And so what do I have? I said, look, I don't use your energy. So if I was buying 30,000 before, I've resorted to buy 15 or 12,000 now. And that is continue to reduce, because if I can manage to actually increase the capacity of my solar, then NEPA is almost useless to me. So it is a case of, you know, if Mohammed doesn't go to the mountain, and then what is it? If NEPA cannot solve our problem of PSA, we try to solve the problem ourselves. And we have abundant energy in terms of wind, in terms of sun. In fact, in the north is more. And so the solar thing is actually almost a revolution everywhere now. You know,
China,
everybody is trying
Japan,
it. And the more reason why PACN should actually activate its act together properly and find solution to his problem instead of just increasing prices. That's what they did during night. During night, I was in the villa as an assistant, and we convinced labor, we convinced NITEL officials want to introduce GSM. They refused. They said it will be expensive, it will be this and that. I was one of those who did a comparative analysis of those who are using GSM around West Africa and Europe. And we realized only Nigeria was not using it. By that time, in 1999, when Obasanjo was in power, when you get to Cotonou, what do you have? You see a wheelbarrow pusher. All you need to do is tell him the number of where you are going. You don't hear French. He will call the person will describe the place to him. After hearing, he will take you there. Because of GSM. As at that time, we don't have it here. Now, they said no until we submitted that report, and we insisted the president must do it, and then we did it. When we did it, and it started working now, you see what has happened. Now, those of them who are criticizing it that time, including Oshiomhole, they are not carrying more than 4 phones, more handsets every day, calling. And anytime the last time I saw Oshiomhole, you know, I know him very well. I said, okay, you are carrying about 4 phones. Because, you know, I said, but that time you said it's not possible. Federal government gave NITEL almost free license to operate a GSM. They couldn't, because they were actually happy with the sharp practices that was going on in NITEL, and they don't want it to stop. And it's unfortunate. In this Osogbo that time, I have a telephone line in my house. When the telephone line is bad, you will go to NITEL. In that they will ask you whether you have a ladder and whether you have a car that can carry a ladder before they can attend to you. And they will tamper with the line themselves and charge you, you know, unofficially, you know, for repairing it. To the extent that, if at a point in 7up, I knew the cable that connects my house. So anytime I'm coming from Abuja, or, you know, I check it, immediately they see me pass, they will go and remove it. Because they wanted money. No corruption, they didn't want to stop that time. But they have stopped. Now everybody is using phone. That time I'm talking, this Osogbo were less than 700 using telephone lines. But today, out of 3-point-something million population, we can boast of more than 1-point-something million having handset. I used to tell students, if you don't have any handset now, you are laggard. That means you are too indigent to be in school. And so it has competition has brought it closer to all of us, to the extent that the prices are crashed. So the same thing in this electricity thing, NEPA should act is, you know, policies. They should start thinking deeply how they can improve, how they can use the advantage of the solar, how they can reduce prices, how they can be viable in the coming years. Otherwise, the more the revolution of the solar is coming to this place, the worse for NITEL. I mean, the worse for NEPA, for PSN, for whatever board they have set up. And they need to actually, you know, start thinking how they can, you know, act into that and make sure Nigerians have electricity at cheaper rate. See, in my school, just this last 1 week, it's been trending on the social media. You know, somebody came, put a rechargeable light on moringa tree. After opening, you put it, it shows light. Wow. We have told the engineers in our school now to start researching into how that works, and we realize that you put that, you go to the mango tree again, you scratch it, and then you put the rechargeable light again, and it will show light. Yes. So we said that you research to it. They are researching into it. So all forms of energy generation may come into play in different forms. And by the time PSN crashed, labor will be crying. They should not sack them. They should not dare them to go away. Where will they go? If people are not buying their product, who will buy it? How will they be viable? They should be thinking of how to adjust. See, I'm amazed that they come to my community and say that, look, we should help them to collect money from those who have not paid. And then some people, I say, what? We should help you to do your job? If you can pull light in my house and I can buy energy on digital, you know, line, and then once I put the number, the code, the light shows. So what is your problem? The only thing you need is a chip to control it from the pole. And that chip, nobody can tamper with it if you put it there. But you can't do that. You are not thinking along that line. To the extent that nobody, okay, can anybody tamper with GSM credit? If your credit is finished, it's finished.
Yeah.
You go and buy another one. Is there any means by which somebody can get illegal credit? So if electricity people are not thinking of that, and they are thinking of communities to help them to collect their money, then they have failed. They should start thinking deeply and start hiring consultants who can put chips. And again, these things have been happening, or it has happened in developed crime. Why can't you copy them? You put a chip on the pole to the extent that everybody that tamper with the electricity will be caught. When I wanted to buy my prepaid, I bought they showed me different types. I bought the one they told me, once you tamper with it, it will sand and then it enter cold. When it enter cold, you need to go to Ibadan to repair it, and you pay a lot of money. So nobody tampers with it in my house. We look at it and we pay our bill. Now, again, when my friend wanted to buy that same type of prepaid, they told us is no more available. They went to bring inferior types that people can tamper with, and then they turn around again to say that they are tampering with their life. Who are the people tampering with it? It is their own staff that is collaborating with all these consumers to tamper with it. And because the prepaid they gave to them is accessible, the one in my house is not accessible. You can't just touch it. That's why, if that is the type they can provide for everybody, why can't they do it? But again, I've told you, any environment where corruption is pervasive, nothing can work.
The solar panels is
a revolution.
It's really helping matters a great deal in because myself in my house that's the in thing. But then we just hope for the federal government, state governments will look into this. I know there was a time in Lagos that they thought about solar panels to light up Lagos and to light up the street lights. And
but some states are doing it. If you look at some street lights, it is solar panel powered, and once it's done, the sun charges it, and in the evening it's bright. It's just some criminals that are tampering with it. If they didn't tamper with it, it's everywhere. So my own concern in this is that Nigerians like to complain. And complain like the United people were complaining. They didn't want to move with technology. They were not dynamic. PSM people should be dynamic. They should be thinking of how they can improve. Look, in England, you have about 59 electricity boards. It is competition, different organizations. So you can be using one, I can be using a different one. Why are we not thinking like that? Must it be PSN? Must it be IBEDIC alone? You can register so many boards that can generate electricity and distribute it on their own. Even with this solar, they will generate, they will transmit, they will distribute. And then they need the collaboration of government to do that. And because it's capital intensive, government must put hand into it and make sure that, energy works. I've said it here before that government must subsidize energy. And when we say energy, we are talking of PMS, we are talking of the petrochemical products from the crude oil, we are talking of electricity. Everywhere in the world, government subsidize energy. Energy generally. If you don't subsidize energy, your economy will not be productive. Your economy can only be productive if you have stable electricity. Then artisans can work, and they can charge, and they can pay tax, and your GDP will increase.
Because I remember there was a time myself and my dad were talking, and he just asked me that, do I need a generator? If I need a generator, the generator he has, ever since he got to the US, he has never for once pulled it to start. Look, please send it home.
That's why we say you must work to pay your bill in developed clime. You don't pay your bill. It's a different, they're private people. They're collaborating with government. They come to you, they remove your life.
Absolutely.
They even charge you to court. So you must struggle to work hard to pay your bill. And then why should you not be happy to pay? The electricity is stable. It's stable.
Exactly.
So why not you pay?
Because these are things Nigerians are looking out for. That you're saying that you want to
they embark on fire brigade approach. They came to our community. I'm using my community as an example. They removed the panel of the transformer. We bought the transformer ourselves. Now, let's say it's not their property. They removed the panel. They took it away for 3 days. Then when they call us, I asked them, you are looking for money? They say, yes. You are looking for money, yet you took light for 3 days. How do we pay you? How do we pay you?
There are times whereby when you have constant electricity towards the end of the month, then you know that you get a visit by people from NEPA. All right, let's move on quickly. PDP NWC meets senators today over minority leadership, alleged APC interference. We should by now. This shouldn't be too much.
Well, they are playing their politics. You know, the PDP, the opposition parties in the National Assembly were part of the politics that led to the, you know, election of the Senate President and the other officers in the House of Representatives. And so the party with the majority members, you know, wants to have a hand too in who becomes who in the, you know, in the opposition, because, you know, they can rock their votes. They are looking for somebody who will not rock the vote of the party in power. And so the politics continues. But the unfortunate thing in this is that is this child practice. It is this corruption. Money is exchanging hands, and that will prevent us all the time from getting the best. And when you don't get the best, you can't practice democracy in the best way that will yield dividends of democracy. The best should come out of them. But what they are doing, I'm bold to say it here, is child practices. You know, they are just trying, it's corruption that is playing out. Otherwise, they know who is the best among them. I mean, why can't you leave the opposition to pick their minority leader? Now they can, because they want somebody who will be a rubber stamp, who will not be criticizing their policies here and there every minute. But again, Adesina classify them into hailers and wailers. You know, the hailers, the hailers are psychophants, majority of them. The wailers are the ones the government needs to actually check them. You need constructive criticism to move democracy forward. You can't be doing things alone. You need people to checkmate you. You need people to tell you where you are wrong, and then you take correction immediately and move on.
Quickly, let's move on this morning. AFDB okays $150 million loan for Abia to rehabilitate roads, manage erosion, solid waste. We keep getting all these loans.
It's the only way they can. That's the only thing they think. Because I've told you, they are not resourceful. If they are resourceful, you will not be thinking of loan alone. And this loan, what is it tied to? What do you want to achieve with it? Are we seeing the output? Where Nigeria is owing about 80-something trillion now. Now, with that, what can we showcase for it? Our infrastructure is up to date. Look at the Lagos-Ibadan Express. It's not completed. How many roads do we have that are good? Look at our electricity. It's not working. It's epileptic. Look at water. What have you used the loan you have borrowed to actually? Is it to service recurrent expenditures? If it's recurrent, then we are done for. I mean, it's unheard of. I mean, when they accuse Brazil or Argentina of taking huge amount of loan, they showed the infrastructures, it was useful. It was useful, and it was good. What can we show for our own loan? They are just taking loan to cheer. And it's quite unfortunate. And until President Tinubu started actually acting, properly and telling these people that this country belongs to all of us, and it is legacy you leave behind that will tell who you are in future. I mean, we must leave good legacies. We must develop this country. We must provide infrastructure. The money they borrowed over the years is enough to provide infrastructure in this country to the level of Dubai. But yeah, look at Dubai.
Honestly.
Look at Saudi Arabia.
I've always had this experience.
What we use the money to do? Is this the unfortunate thing? Taking loan, I specialize in debt management. Taking loan is good. America is owing about $15 trillion. That's not the problem. America is solvent, and their revenue generation every month can cushion the effect of that loan. Do we have that capacity? Two, when you take a loan to embark on productive activities that can generate money for your economy in future to even pay back the loan. Is that what we are doing? They take the loan, and it is then you see them marrying more wives. It is then you see them traveling abroad regularly. It is then you see them going to Hajj. I'm sorry to say that, going to both Mecca and Jerusalem, with so many people. Do you know how much it costs to sponsor somebody to Jerusalem? Or to Mecca and Medina? And they will sponsor so many people. And where are you getting the money?
Wow. Still on the pages of the Guardian newspaper, and the last one for that, Malta, published spending of 400 billion naira fuel subsidy savings. Sarah tells Tinubu.
Yes, the president has to tell us where that money is or what he has used it to do. Maybe he said we should sacrifice. We have been sacrificing now, and then we've sacrificed it for 1 month. Abi? And that's the result. So what have you used the money? Let us know. If you have not used it, what do you want to use it to do? That money must be used for something that will cushion the effect of this hardship on the citizen. That money must be used for the generality of the country. That money must be seen to have been used for something that is productive. That money must be seen to be used for something that will enhance our economy. But if we are making 400 billion like that every month now, then we should see the impact. Abi, is the impact we are concerned with, and want to see the impact in the health sector, want to see it in the agri sector, want to see it in the educational sector, want to see it in all sectors, infrastructure-wise and all the rest of them. It is quite unfortunate. We have degenerated to a very bad level. You move around now. What do you see? You see government patching roads, and we'll be hailing them. They are just patching the road, and they patch the road 1 week, 2 weeks, the pothole is there again because the rains are here. So, all this money we want to know, and how government can be transparent, particularly President Tinubu. We are giving him all the support. He should equally respect us by telling us, please, I've taken this for this month. This is how I spent it, or this is how I want to spend it, so that he can carry us along, and then we can know where he has challenges and where we can assist him.
All right, let's move on to another daily before we call it a wrap and join other guests to talk about the EU 2023 poll report that came out over the weekend. It really caused quite a whole lot of controversy, and the Fed presidency have reacted to this. We're still talking about that, but there's still some headlines I would love us to look into this morning, and I'm going straight to the Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper has this big bold caption there. Investors 4.35 trillion naira gain in 1 month boosts economy. And there's Tinubu rally, Nigeria to world top 3. Stock market hits 15-year high. We're looking forward to a better economy and having it in the very best of ways as well. All right, moving on here. Ndume Bamidele bidding for Senate leader post, while the PDP is looking for how to be the minority leader. Ndume has always been the Senate leader for quite a whole. He's been there in the Senate. Is it not right to let's give another person this opportunity?
After it is the politics between them or amongst them. They want somebody who can do their bidding. Even the government in power, they want to be. They are interested in who becomes Senate minority leader, Senate minority chief whip, and the rest of them. They want people. That's normal. It is the opposition that will put their hearts together properly and give us one of the best among them. Everybody can be. It is one person that will be. And then put somebody that at least can have the interest of the masses in his heart and then defend the interest of the masses. And I think that is important. A situation where you chorously put the person, the government to work, then we are moving towards a rubber stamp National Assembly like we had in the 9th Assembly under Lawan. The Lawan National Assembly was purely a rubber stamp assembly.
Death toll of Nigerian pilgrims rises to 13. So sad there. And banks collected 8.9 trillion naira deposits in 12 months. CBN says $35.15 billion in reserve. Okay. On the bottom strip of the Nation newspaper, Kwakwanso backs Yusuf on demolition of buildings in Kano. Virtually, Kano is everything building or thereabout. Once it's not for the same administration, it's kind of like being pulled down. Lastly, let me go straight to the Vanguard newspaper. The Vanguard newspaper, March to Nigeria's economic recovery revealed Tinubu's move against terrorism. Remember, during the campaign, this was one of the things. I think he was the only candidate then that actually said he will come after terrorists and wipe them out.
That is good. That is good. That's part of the things affecting the economy. You see what happened in Ogun State these last 3 days? It shows that insecurity is still here. But, you know, he just came, so let's give him some time. He has to fight terrorism.
Absolutely.
You know, when I saw him, you know, receiving the people who manage the ungoverned spaces, like Asari, the Kubo, I was shocked, because if you want to fight terrorism, those people should be your target. You know, but again, a good government can cultivate them, you know, and then cancel them, you know, and then orientate them, you know, to put their energy on productive activities. That is good. So we are watching. And if we can do that successfully, that will help. In fact, the greatest problem we have in terms of oil theft is because of these terrorist activities in the Niger Delta. Once he can cultivate those people and calm them down like Yaradua did, and then, you know, they submitted their arms under Yaradua. And then we had a field day, and then production increased geometrically that time. So President Tinubu has to do the same. Once he does that, then oil theft will reduce. Not only that, production will increase, and that will be good for our revenue.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Most of this story, but let me look at what the World Bank is saying here. Fuel subsidy made e-vehicles unattractive in Nigeria. That's credited to the World Bank. But, you know, World Bank, IMF, they always want us to do their bidding.
Yes, because we have leaders who don't believe in themselves. We have resources in Nigeria that will make the Bretton Woods institutions to be begging us. That is the truth. We don't need to beg them. It is because we have not actually used our resources productively, and we have not embarked on actually exploration, or the exploration of our resources, to the extent that we become very rich, and they will be begging us. You know, when Awolowo was Premier of Western, he was lending money to the federal government. How did that happen? It was good governance, good leadership. We need good leadership that will, first of all, you know, stop sharp practices, corruption. Once you can do that, you reduce corruption to a reasonable level, then you do exploration of our resources, you will realize that we don't need the Bretton Woods institution. Every statement they make, every action they take, it is for their own benefit. It is their interest first before our own. And they're always looking for ways of actually cheating us. And that is what has transpired over the year. Otherwise, you take a loan of 1 billion naira this year, they tell you in 5 years, it has become 15 billion. And how do you pay? And they want you to pay. For that 15 years, you have been paying interest. You have not paid the real capital. And that is their strategies. It is only states, government that believe in themselves that can call their bluff and then use its own resources to actually generate funds to the extent that it will benefit its people. You remember why Gaddafi was eliminated? It was because Gaddafi wanted to be on his own. Gaddafi was advocating a beneficial dictatorship. And it was seen that he was doing those things for his people. A desert area that has the biggest dam in the world. Honestly. And not only that, you know, a country where, you know, citizens are not just complaining. Their priority was number one. And it was generating resources, you know, to the extent that, you know, it is benefiting its people. But when they realize he's going against their policies, they now eliminated him. And so African leaders that you see are running after Bretton Woods institutions are not thinkers.
All right.
They're just not thinkers.
Dr. Oluyemi OMOTOSHO Jr. is still going to be here, and very shortly we'll just take this break right now. And very shortly we will be linking up as well with Ayo Ologun, who, you know, Ayo Ologun will be very busy man, always flying from one state to the other, or one country to the other on its own. It's still Morning Spring coming to you live from Western Spring Television. Over the weekend, there was this statement credited to the European Union. The report on the 2023 general election has caused quite a whole lot of uproar in Nigeria at this moment in time. And one of the presidential candidates of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, said EU's report reliable. We want to look into that. How reliable is this? And is the European Union, are they right with what they have actually stated? they have actually come up with at this moment in time. When we come back, we'll go into discussion of that. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Oluyemi Jr. Thank you for the first part. We're going straight into the second half of the show. Please stay with us. We'll be back.
Okay.
The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history. James Ajibolaige was a lawyer who obtained his first degree in classics from Nigeria's premier University of Ibadan. Born September 13, 1930, the orator and the polyglot spoke impeccable English, French, Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba languages. His fine diction placed him
All right, thank you for being there. Here we go. Let's discuss about the European Union's statement report in the course of the weekend, stating quite a whole lot, and there's been so much reaction. The presidency have rejected the European Union's conclusion on the 2023 general election. It's virtually on all the dailies this morning. I would have loved to read what was said and what the European Union have actually come up with at this moment in time. It's a little bit embarrassing. Some have said, for instance, the People's Democratic Party's presidential candidate Waziri Alhaji Atiku Abubakar have said, it is a reliable report, and so many things have come up on that aspect here. But looking at what the presidency have said, rejecting that report, it's really large. I don't know, but in the course of this, we will discuss this, and I'll reel out some of the stories that was said while we go on the show. I still want to say a big thank you to Dr. OMOTOSHO Jr. who is still here with me in the studio, and via Zoom I'm being joined by another he a civil rights activist, a journalist as well, and he too monitored the election in the course of while the election came up. OLOGUN is somewhere in the house. I want to say good morning to. Let me clarify because it's still morning in Nigeria and in Osun State. I don't know if it's are we still on the same platform? Probably because
I'm still speaking from the website of Nigeria. I'm speaking to you.
Where is it?
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, great. So we are all still here because I know you'll probably be somewhere here and looking at what the European Union have said. You probably, I don't know what's your take concerning it, but let's move on right now, gentlemen. We've all read. I know, Comrade, you must have read what the European Union said concerning the elections, and also Dr. OMOTOSHO. Yeah. Gentlemen, what is your take concerning the what the European Union have stated? And isn't this embarrassing at this moment in time? Let me start with Comrade OLOGUN first.
There's nothing embarrassing. There's nothing absolutely embarrassing about what the European Union have said.
All right.
Our problem over time is that we have glorified anything that is not Nigerian, and we have given prominence to anything that is coming from the white part of the world. That is simply our problem. And then also, our political system is such that glorifies the interest. Because you will recall that the European Union have not done anything different. Right from 1999, there is possibly no election that the European Union has classified as fair and free in Nigeria. But when this present administration, the APC, when they were in opposition, they have always acclaimed and clapped for the European Union on their reports. Now the table has turned. They are now the one in power, and they are crying foul. They want to throw away the child with the bathwater. And let's quickly put the issues into perspective. I've read the report of the European Union. They have brought out 25 salient points and also 6 areas where they believe there should be an improvement. And if you look at the systematic areas of improvement that they have advised, they have not said anything that is out of place. I will quickly point out to you some of it. One of their area of interest, and they have advised upon, is the fact that there is a need to improve protection of media practitioners in our election. I have said it again and again, that the media may are the most exposed during elections. We do not even have protection, not to even talk of means, or they are not being commiserated for their duties during election, even when they do the best. So the EU has simply said, let there be protection for media practitioners during election. Another thing that the EU have said in their systematic area of focus is that there is a need for greater involvement of women in our electoral process. And this is also not strange. In the House of Assembly in Osho, for example, there is no single woman in that House of Assembly. We have never had it so badly like this in the National Assembly, with the number of women that are in the House of Rep and in the Senate. We do not even know what the configuration of the cabinet of the president will look like. Because as of today, I think we only have 2 women in official capacity that have been appointed. All of them have been men. So the EU have not said anything extraordinary. Another third thing that they said is that going forward, our elections need to be uploaded on real time, so that this will enhance credibility and confidence of the people in the election. So if you look at all of these things, the question would be, what have they said that has not been overflowed before now, before their report was issued? But there is only one thing that I have issues with. You cannot claim that your report is superior to the report of every other observer when in the real fact you did the least job. And if my fact does not serve me wrongly, EU only deployed 1 observer per state in the last general election, 11 in Abuja. And even those 11 are not members of the European Union. These are public affairs analysts like you, like myself, that were single ones and that were picked in random and given the duty of election, of observing election and reporting to the EU. So if you have one reporter per state, one observer per state, how do you judge election in such a state? How much can one observer in a state cover? Even the organization that I belong to, we deployed over 1,600 observers across the country, compared to an organization that deployed just about less than 50. So if you want to look at it from that angle, I want to say that the report of the EU cannot be said to be holistic, because they probably would not have even covered up to 20% of electoral centers in the different states. That's number one. Number two, as a nation, we also need to realize that we cannot be judging or cannot be basing the report or the credibility of our election on the opinion of some random organizations from different parts of the world. We don't dictate to them. Whatever the outcome of the election in Europe or in America is, they are not prepondent upon our opinion as Africans. They do their things and vote this way. So they cannot come to impose upon us what their opinion would be. But this is a sign to politicians that because you are in power today does not mean you will not be in opposition tomorrow. So if you claim or you applaud or you condemn the report because it does not favor you now, it does not mean that tomorrow you will not find yourself on the other side of the coin. So this is a sign to all, this is a signal to all politicians that they should understand that the table can turn at any time. And it is important that they take opinion of even independent observers within the country more seriously. But we cannot afford to throw away the child with the bathwater. Not everything contained in that report of the EU can be said to be unwholesome. I stand by that report with some part of that report and say that we need to accept that report and take each some of the advices given in that report.
All right, thank you, Comrade. Please just hold on. Let me come straight to Dr. Oluyemi Omotosho Jr. in the house with me. Looking at the Labour Party have come out through, I think, their the National Publicity Secretary of the Labour Party, that's Pastor Obiora. He was speaking here, and he said that the report from the EU was one out of many international observers who had submitted that the election was rigged in favor of the ruling party. This is something, now that, just like Comrade OLOGUN had said, because they are not in power, that's why they are supporting what the EU have said. Do you think this credit they're giving to the EU will help elections in Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. My problem basically with the EU report is that is the response from the government. The response from the government amazes me a lot. Now, you invited them to come and observe your election.
Yes.
And you have been inviting them over the years. And like we have observed over the years, it's not the first time EU will submit its report. And most of their reports is to actually find out the weaknesses in our election and propose solutions to them. And I think that is reasonable. When you invite somebody to come and observe what you are doing, you expect him to actually, tell you your weaknesses and then provide solutions to them so that you can improve. Now, the way the government came out to lambast the EU report is really, I think it's unacceptable because, we should learn from it. Not everything the EU says are not right. For instance, they said that remove ambiguities in our law. We still have ambiguities in the electoral law. They also said that the selection process must be seen to be transparent. And they said must release result of election real time so that, voters can actually monitor what is, and that is exactly what the INEC promised us. But when you look at the way the government reacted to it, it leaves much to be desired. Now, you condemned what they have said as if nothing is good there. Most of the things, the 6 areas they mentioned are very, very, germane to our electoral system. All the government needs to do is to actually look at those 6 areas and see how we can improve. Don't we need to remove ambiguities in our legal? There is ambiguity there. That's why so many things are in the court now that we don't even know left or right about it. And 2, they said that, transparency in your, actions and in your process, is that not important? Now, this last election, I'm bold to say here again that it was to me, it's the worst election in the life of this country, because the propaganda that went to it before the election should prepare Nigerians for an election that is coming, and so many people came out. But our hopes were dashed when they said there were glitches that could actually enable us to see the result of National Assembly elections without seeing that of the presidency, which is the most important. And that is what determines everything. And it is on the basis of that people were worried. And that is apart from the fact that that Electoral Commission spent about 305 billion naira to prosecute that particular election, and you are telling us there are glitches here and there that you cannot control. And then not only that, they even said that immediately after the election, they said they have to retrieve the beavers, in preparation for the second leg of the election. With the amount of money released to them, are we expecting, can't we expect a situation where the beavers are double, so that the one you use for this election, you don't use for the other election to prevent malpractices here and there? So what the EU has done as an invited observer, I think is good. They have submitted their report. They have told us our weaknesses. They said there are weaknesses in the, electoral process, which demand that we should, take some steps to correct the operational, processes of our election. And I think that is credible. I mean, we have to look at it. If there are problems, if there are systemic problems in the process of the election, and they suggested ways that we can ameliorate it, I think we should give them kudos. Now, the reaction of the government is that they are saying that it's born out of propaganda, that anything that is not in tandem with their own, they must condemn. No, there is nothing extraordinary the EU has said. In their 6-point, analysis, everything they said there, I think to me, is reasonable. And it is real. They are correct. Remove ambiguities in the law. That is necessary. Again, establish a publicly accountable selection process for INEC member. That is important. Ensure relationship, real-time publication of and access to election results. That is the problem we had. We couldn't see the result as promised. Then they said, provide greater protection for media practitioners. Don't we need that? Again, discrimination against women and impunity regarding the electoral offenses. Aren't we, over the years, we have arrested so many electoral offenders. How many of them have we punished? And then aren't we supposed to protect media practitioners who are hooping here and there and then condemned and punished for nothing? So what I expect government to do is to look at this result, thank the EU, because it is those who are they classify as hailers and wailers. It is the wailers that are useful to the government when they are bringing constructive criticism. The government must listen to constructive criticism, and I believe this EU report is constructive criticism of our electoral process, which government must look at and then take corrective actions to prevent all those problems in our next election. Those who are hailing government all the time, that what the EU has said now is not good, or that they are the enemies of government, they are psychopaths.
All right, Comrade OLOGUN, hold on here as well, because I know you stated it in while you were reeling your thoughts here. The EU had 11 Abuja-based analysts. They had 40 election observers spread across 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. And we had about 176,000 polling units. Was that enough for the EU, the sets of people they brought? That's just like OLOGUN had said, one person per state. And we had 176,000 polling unit. How were they able to go around to be able to assess what had happened at record room and all the local governments around?
Thank you very much.
I'm coming back to you.
You know that this costs a lot of money.
Yes.
And Nigeria is a very big country. Now, this EU and all other observers are not working in isolation of the others. Comrade OLOGUN lend credence to the fact that they call some of them to even participate. So they do what we call peer review mechanism. They compare notes with others who have participated. I mean, you can't expect the EU to provide five observers in all our electoral body. Where is the money? So, I mean, the random sampling they have done is allowed even in research. In research, if you have a population of 10 million, you can do sample size. And that sample size, once it has the characteristics of the main population, is acceptable. And then that's what they have done. And I'm sure they must have done what is known as peer review mechanism with other observers before they came out with this report. Now, this report is coming out after 3 months. There is nothing much different from what others are saying. In what they have actually read out, there is no observer that can cover Nigeria electoral process adequately, you know, in terms of what the expectation of everybody is. It is, you have to do sampling, and it is that sampling that will showcase, and they know the flash areas, they know the flash points, where they need to be at every point. You can't compare Abuja with Osun State. You can't compare Osun with Borno. They know where they can be, and in places where they are not available, they call those who are there to assist them and then look at their report and see whether it's in tandem.
Great. Let me comment on your logo. Now, let me ask you here that with this report by the EU, do you see an aspect whereby they probably relied more on rumors, hearsay, cocktails, or prejudiced and uniform social media commentaries and opposition's talking heads? What is your take about that? Because if they had just 40 and to cover 176,000 polling units, do you think they probably must have used social media to put all this together?
Well, before I answer that question, permit me to respectfully correct some opinion that have been given by Dr. OMOTOSHO, which are not really the way it is. EU, like every other observer, are not invited. The INEC do not invite observers. Every observer group is expected.
They come by themselves.
Or to register with INEC. So it's a choice of any group or of any organization to decide to observe election. INEC will not write to anybody to say, yeah, come and observe election. It has to be the organization that will decide they want to observe and then apply to INEC. That's number one. Number two, I also differ in the opinion of Dr. OMOTOSHO that this is the worst election in the history of the country. It depends on what yardstick you want to look at it. This election of 2023 is on record that this is the election with the lowest crime. And when I say crime, I don't mean pre-election criminality. I'm talking about the actual crime committed during the election. This is the election. This is the first election since 1999 where we have the least record of casualties in terms of death, in terms of maiming, in terms of body loss, and what have you. And what I'm telling you is verifiable by the report of the Nigerian Police Force. We have never had an election in Nigeria where we have the lesser number of casualties in the election like we had in the 2023 election. That in itself is a plus to that election. And this is the election where we had the highest number of voter turnout. You can want to say, oh, if you put it on the aggregate of the total number of Nigerians, maybe it is low. Yes, I agree, but we want to look at the figures as to 1 to 2. This is the first election in Nigeria where we have the highest number of voter turnout in that election. We can go on and look at the reasons why we cannot say this is the worst election in this country. If you want to say this is the most proper, this is the election with the highest number of propaganda, well, I could give it, but to categorize this election as the worst in the history of this nation, I think it will not really go down well with me. Now back to the issue of EU. I haven't clarified the part that the EU, like every other organization, apply to INEC to observe. I want to inform us that I've been observing elections for about 20 years, and I can tell you categorically that the number of deployed agents or deployed observers in election is critical to opinion in such an election. For example, the organization that I observed for in the last election deployed well over 1,000 people in that election. You cannot compare the reports that we emanate, which means in virtually not the local governments in Nigeria, we had an observer that is covering each of the local governments. You cannot compare the reports of such an organization to what will be coming from EU, which deployed less than 50. How do you expect that one observer will give you average report or acceptable report across a whole thing? So what you expect is that they either will depend on reports of other organizations, like Dr. OMOTOSHO said, or rely on hearsay. And I must tell you that one thing that the EU did was to depend on reports of organizations that are in tandem with their principle. So how can you account the fact that the organization whose report you are accepting as part of the peer review mechanism for your own organization is not itself biased? How do you ascertain that the particular organization whose report you want to depend on is not influenced by one of the political parties that participated in that election? That is why a serious organization will do its own work independently and now compare notes. So I thought the fact that EU didn't do well in the deployment of observers in that election. And I thought it would be difficult to ultimately affect the report of that election. But that does not take away the fact that they have said to us things that are important and germane to development of our electoral process. Apart from the 25 thematic points that they highlighted 6 areas of improvement. We cannot take away those 6 areas of improvement. That's not been overflowed over time. What they have asked us to do is not going to play. Asking us to ensure that the process by which our candidates emerge is more transparent is one thing that we have all demanded for. It's not of Abacadabra primary election of political party. So in that much, they have said what is good. If you're asking us that there should be a rejuvenation in the laws that back up election and post-election issues, these are what Nigerians have always said. That look, there's a need to enhance law that are used in our elections and post-election cases in court. If you're asking that there's a need to enhance protection of media personnel during election, we have demanded this again and again. So they are not saying anything out of place. If they are asking that there should be more involvement of women in our electoral process, they are not saying anything out of place. And that's why I said, irrespective of the opinion of anyone, you cannot throw away the baby with the bathwater. In as much as I am not in support of the fact that issues should be taken to us on the veracity or the fairness of our election, we cannot also throw away the things to us because those things that have been identified as great areas that we need to work on and in partner with the process, and there are areas that we need to improve upon as a nation.
Let me still stay with you before I bring in Dr. OMOTOSHO here. We had some non-partisan foreign and local observers such as the ECOWAS, the Commonwealth, African Union, the Commonwealth Observer Mission, and also the Nigerian Bar Association. Some of these non-partisan, non-profit organizations and non-partisan organizations validated this election that just gone by. So, and the EU have come out separately. What do you make of the validation of all these other non-partisan organizations who have validated this election? Compared to what the EU have just said at this moment in time. COMRADE OLOGUN.
I can tell you for a fact that if you look through the reports of the Nigerian Bar Association, for example, the Nigerian Bar Association graded or rated the election of 2023 as being successful at 96%. Go back to that record, it's there. So the same thing with the ECOWAS. ECOWAS rated that election to have been successful to the tune of 88%. So if as a student you are writing an exam and you score 96, that is A plus. If you score 80 something, that will probably be of another A. You can go on and on. My organization have also presented our reports, and we have also said that look, even though there were gray areas that need to be improved upon, it is a plus. The electoral process of 2023 is a plus. So you cannot say all of those independent organizations, non-profit organizations, their report is not important because one organization called the EU, because they are speaking from outside the country, all of a sudden their opinion is much more important than the opinion of NBA and the opinion of ECOWAS and a number of other organizations. And that's where I have issues. Over the years, our leaders are so much brought up to a limit whereby they made us believe that whatever is not coming as a validation organization countries outside of the country is not acceptable enough. The same thing applies to our sense of dressing. They want you to believe that you are not wearing a suit and a tie, you are not dressing formally. They want to believe that you are not putting on a particular kind of glasses, you are not the citizen of the world. Because over time, we have limited our acceptability as a nation to the judgment and opinion of other countries. That is why we are where we are. The fact that EU has given an opinion does not in any way mean that the opinion supersedes the opinion of other organizations and should be taken more seriously than that of the NBA, the ECOWAS, and the rest of them. Just like every other organization, they are simply saying their opinion, and it does not in any way supersede the opinion of other observers that have given credibility to this election in one form or the other.
All right. Quickly, before we call it a wrap, Dr. OMOTOSHO, looking at what the Commissioner for Information and Voter Education of INEC, Mr. Festus Okoye, he has come out to defend the integrity of the election it's conducted by rejecting the false narratives in the EU report. What's your take on that?
Now, let me just correct Mr. Ologun on one thing. There is no portion of that report from the EU that condemned this election outrightly. The fact that I said the election was the worst in the history of Nigeria is my personal opinion.
Yes.
And I stand by that. They have a turnout of 27%. And they spent about 305 billion naira. And they conducted an election where they said, we are going to see result return, and we didn't see it. And then, whereas that election was simultaneous with National Assembly election, we were able to see that. We couldn't see the other one. That was the main issue. Now, again, apart from that, the EU said there are enduring weaknesses in our electoral process. That is a fact. Which need legal and operational reform. That is a fact. All the associations Mr. Ologun lent credence to said that. Then they said 6 areas, which he has told us, are correct. They never said this election has no credibility. They said we should correct the following areas. And part of the area is voter protection, journalist protection, electoral process, transparency, and accountability. And they said that if we correct this enduring, if we take reforms in these areas, in the area of legal and operational reforms, it will enhance our election to be transparent, to be accountable, and then to be inclusive. Where have they said that our election was not credible? They were saying practically what others said. It's just that it is coming from a group that is not flippant. Most of the reports we are reading from NBA, and some of them are compromised. And I'm bold to say that because, we are in Nigeria. We saw what happened with the magnitude of money spent on that election. We expect it to be seamless. We may not be 100% correct, but at least we expect something better. Look at the profiling in Lagos and all the rest of it. So many people, were disenfranchised. And everybody was saying that in the country. When this report started coming from this organization, they started saying other things. Mind you, you have to know that these people in government now were the people hailing the EU over the years, for their report, which is always like this.
But the spokesman for INEC, Festus Okoye, has come out to say that it is false. What do you make of that?
What I'm saying is that they've been hailing them over the year, and now that they are in power, their report is not good. Not to come to Okoye. Okoye, after being part of those who spent 305 billion, have they explained to us what led to the glitches? And the same process of election we follow in Nigeria have been followed in other countries without glitches. This is what they call glitches, and they couldn't explain to us today why the glitches happen only during the presidential election, and it didn't happen during the National Assembly election. That is the core of the matter. That is the core of this report, and it is the president. We are talking of an executive president in Nigeria. That is what determines everything. Isn't that what we are hearing? Who is talking about a local government that has been chairman, that has been elected? We talk less about governor. We dwell more about our presidency, and that is the area INEC disappointed us, and that is the point some of us are making, that if that election, as far as the presidency is concerned, is that bad, then we cannot say it's one of the best in Nigeria. More so, we have less than 27% to deal with and spend the highest humongous amount on election over the years, and then till today, we are contesting the result in the court.
All right. Well, hopefully I know that this will continue to we'll discuss this on the Rave Gang on Saturday. So, Ologun, sir, comrade. Let's get ready for some fireworks. We'll definitely talk about this. It's one of our major topics that will come on Saturday. I want to thank you both gentlemen for being on the program this morning. Comrade OLOGUN via Zoom. Thank you most sincerely for taking time out. I will always disturb you like this. You know, I'm the only one that can do this.
My good friend.
I want to thank you most sincerely, Dr. OMOTOSHO Jr., former Dean, Student Affairs, Federal Polytechnic. Thank you as well for being here.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure being with you on the show this morning. I'll be back again tomorrow morning on another edition of the program, Morning Spring. Till then, please, let's keep it safe. Let's do the needful. Tunde IDOWU remains my name. Good morning.